I'm assuming you wanted to continue practicing with the Beastmen.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there any matchup you wanted to practice in particular, or just learn them in general?
No, I'm still stuck on learning them in general.
Just in general, that's okay.
Yeah, because there's way too many factions.
I'll play whoever you like. It doesn't bother me.
Let's go. You happy to play Wood Elves, Logic?
My best faction, yeah.
I know you don't normally play Wood Elves, but it's just because I have a replay sent in between Beastmen and Wood Elves, so it'd be interesting to do the game again and then make some comments on it, basically.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome.
You can see both builds, right?
Yes, I can see both builds, so... okay, this is the same Beastmen build from the... Did we work on this Beastmen build last time against Lizardmen?
No, this was against dwarves.
For against dwarfs? Oh, okay.
Because this is why I took them against the Wood Elves, because I was like, oh, they'll have lots of shooting, so I'll bring my...
Yeah, trying to like push into the back line, interesting. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see what Logic goes for as well.
I don't actually know what to bring.
I can send you like a rough build or something.
Yeah, no, I mean I can go something like this. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
You'll see this everywhere.
This is a very typical Wood Elf build. I wouldn't normally bring it against Beastmen myself, but it's good practice against it because it's very like the most like standard, most seen Wood Elf build. So yeah, we can go for this.
It's pretty, yeah, you know.
How did you find your experience doing some tournament games, by the way?
Oh, it was lots of fun. Also learned a lot. And with quick battles, it's always like, am I getting a good opponent or not? Is he gonna cheese? Is he gonna be way better than me or way worse? But I think the admins did a great job of pairing up us new guys. Because, yeah, I think all 3 games were pretty damn close, which was fun.
I kept trying to get Logic to put me in with you guys, but he won't let me.
There might be a small reason for that.
Alright, looks like you're both these armies you're happy with.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so I brought you like a typical
ornament. I've seen this build so many times it hurts my soul.
Yeah, it is like you could almost use this build against anything, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm interested to see how it does against the Beastmen, actually, particularly this Beastmen build. Personally, in this matchup for Beastmen, the main stuff you're going to worry about is Glade Riders, because they can basically outpace all of your own skirmish units. So Glade Riders with the bows are really nasty, because if they can take away Centaur throwing axes and get them off the battlefield, something like Durfu is going to be nigh on unstoppable. So you can do some lessons on kind of pushing units away basically with cheaper shielded ones if you can't counter shoot the enemy. The Logic's gone for a much more kind of typical tournament build, so we'll see how this goes and go from there.
Well, like, you know, Torox would say different.
Torox, what, against Durfu?
Yeah.
Sort of Dave would say different. It depends. Torox can eventually take down Durfu, but it takes him, you know. They both kind of just sit there and bump.
He's like the only one that is like even stands a remote chance. Yeah,
there's also the possibility in this matchup when you're Beastmen. This will mainly only be done by really good elf players. Is Sisters of Twilight in the sky, and a load of just cavalry, majority skirmish cav, and they just kite you round because they'll snipe your caster first with the sisters, and then just pick you apart.
That wasn't my initial plan, but I thought maybe a bit harsh for a first lesson.
Yeah, so something that's good to note in this matchup, which we can try maybe later on, is Traitorkin is a disgustingly powerful spell, which can kill the majority of cavalry, and a lot of Wood Elf players bring the ethereal stags because Beastmen used to at least kind of lack magic damage. So it's always good against Wood Elves to bring a little bit of magic damage, just in case they have those stags. Otherwise, the stags will just kind of kill your entire army, basically.
I didn't even know the Wood Elves had ethereal units.
Yeah, they came in the last DLC.
Okay.
The
Sisters of Twilight one. What was that called?
The Twilight and the
something.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Twilight and the Ratman. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, go for that.
Yeah, sounds legit.
Listen, that's what was... everything I say is legit.
Okay, well, let's try this then.
That's exactly how I feel. Right.
Let's see.
Chaos
The
Doggos.
first thing to do, obviously, is we spoke kind of last week, but what in your opponent's army is going to trouble you. And the main thing here is your main target would be the Glade Guard, basically. They're the ones who will hunt your Minotaurs down. Eternal Guard would be a problem, but you've got other answers to them. So they should be your main goal to shut down and kill, basically.
Hmm.
And I forgot how oppressive bloody Taurox is.
Just see your rage. I'm trying to
Fucking
yeah, I've got some.
nightmare.
Yeah, I'm trying to let you guys focus up. I've got some notes to stick for the end.
Yeah, I got a lord.
Very nice work there. It's a very smart idea, particularly if you've got terror on the field. Just get rid of the enemy general, you can kind of rout their army.
Yeah. But
Can't play these harpies either.
Yeah, they've been. Oh, there they go. Oh no, one
Yeah.
unit's gone. They've been very useful.
Yeah, what a bloody nightmare they've been, mate.
There's good harpy play, yeah.
thanks.
Good harpy play. You've both got a few units also dotted around the battlefield which can come back. A couple of Glade Riders and Minotaurs and Bestigors and stuff.
Yeah, the problem is I've been trying to like not throw everything.
Yeah, against Taurox.
Taurox takes so much of your attention, it's actually absurd.
He's very good, particularly if you don't have a big fella like Durfee to tank him on.
But I think that's me gone in a few.
It's looking a little rough now. I
Yeah.
think there's also some Glade Riders in the trees and stuff as well.
Might as well
That
just...
was a very good first game though against a tough opponent. I'm actually really impressed with how you did there. You never know, Taurox might get a big chain route going down in the middle. They're only pointy-eared elves.
Wouldn't surprise me, man. He's been MVP so far. He's been very good. Look at these Minotaurs, die! God's sake!
The side. And that Fear and Terror with the charge. You never know, the middle's breaking. There's a lot of Glade Guard.
They have no health! What is this game?
Yeah, one of them fought to the end. It didn't shatter. The other one's only got one model left.
Beastmen, well known for their leadership.
When you've got Taurox,
Fucking hell. Like, this is absurd.
Well, you're not the only one surprised by how long this is still going on.
he's doing a good job in the middle. I think there's too many, particularly if the
Yeah.
Glade Guard shooting, and there's even more cav coming from the trees and stuff. But that was an excellent game. That was really good stuff.
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Well played to both
Thanks.
of you. So I've got a load of notes basically from the battle, but first and foremost, what did you think went well, and where do you think it fell apart?
Well, I was able to arrest, I think, his range pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I think he had just too much stuff.
Yeah, 20 stacks are very common, particularly with the Wood Elves, just because Glade Guard are phenomenal, so if they can protect them for a decent amount of time, they can do a lot of damage over time. Something you did really good initially was you push your Minotaurs through the front line and onto the Glade Guard to shut them down. You did it with one unit, but the other units basically just got stuck on Eternal Guard.
Yeah.
And they don't really, there's no need for them to fight Eternal Guard because they're so much faster than them, and you got more mass. Just simply push through and keep going.
Okay.
And try to ignore them because it's a really bad matchup cost-wise for the Minotaurs. Even if they win, they take so much unnecessary damage.
Yeah.
So you kind of did a really good initial push, and then let your troops fight rather than keep pushing. But in here, this matchup, realistically, the main threat to you, what kind of was your undoing, was a couple of the Glade Guard managed to get, 1.2k value, 1k value, because they could just shoot the Minotaurs down and shoot Taurox down. So if you could take them off the battlefield early, it'd be a lot nicer. The only other main problem, which really kind of came to fruition in the late game, was getting the Hounds killed really early on.
Okay.
So the Hounds pushed around and engaged with some Glade Riders, and there's really no need to fight them. There's no chance of actually beating them. And though it feels like a waste at the start because you want your Hounds to get on top of the Archers, if you had a couple of Hounds in the late game there to chase off routing units, to jump on the haggard, Archers, it would have been a completely different game. But apart from that, really well done. Logic, I don't know if you've got any feedback as well, obviously, being the one to take them on.
Really good stuff. You pushed your Lord through really well to keep pressure on Dreicher. It was an absolute nuisance to get her around the battlefield. I actually think four of the Fury type guys were doing really nice there, because they just circumvent all the cavalry from the Wood Elves.
Yeah, the harpies are nice. If you can distract the horses, which they were basically chasing off hounds and stuff, the harpies did some nice pressure there as well.
No, you played well, dude. You played well.
Thanks.
I'd say, I'd say you played well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really good game. Again, so obviously this is a very typical Elvish build as well in general. So
Right,
yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way for you to actually take this down. I mean, it really was kind of just, I think it was like 2 units of Glade Guard, which ended up firing consistently, and the rest you shot down really well. But the problem with Glade Guard is the Wood Elves bring 5 of them because they only need like 2 of them to work. So it's not good enough to shut down 3, because if the other 2 are firing, that's dead Minotaurs, dead Taurochs. And there's not much hope, because apart from that in the build, like the Dryads you can take down really easily with Vestigors and stuff. Likewise the Eternal Guard, so they are the major threat. And alongside Drycha, but you were very comfortable in sniping Drycha there. One thing Logic did, which is you'll see from a lot of experienced Torment players, which is a pain in the butt, is he summoned a unit ahead of his army. The reason to do this isn't so that unit gets a load of value. It messes up your charges and stops you fighting like in the front line as a whole army. And it stops you pushing as one big fighting force, and it allows him to take a little bit of pressure off his back line. But if he does that and he pinned in your Minotaurs, again, it's the same as the Eternal Spears. Just walk through them. You don't need to fight them. And if they're going to really, trail you and come hunt you down, at least be fight on top of the Glade Guard.
Okay, yeah, that actually isn't something I considered pushing Minotaurs through. You said I did, but I think that was more on accident than anything else.
Accident. That's okay. One unit did.
Yeah.
But you don't have to kill the front line of the Minotaurs. It's not really what they're there for. And the only thing in his army which could really stop the Minotaurs quickly, Eternal Guard can do over time, but was the Glade Guard. So if you pushed all 3 units into his back line instantly, he's either going to be forced to bring in cavalry, because they got good mass to pin you in place, in which case your Hounds and Furies can kind of do their job, or he's going to lose his Glade Guard, which is obviously a bit of a problem.
Okay. But to push through, you just keep giving attack commands on the units you want or something?
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the butt, because basically the way units work in this game is when an enemy unit hits them, they stop doing their orders and they turn to fight that unit. Exactly. So you have to just spam click it a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was my main frustration when I first played a couple of games. Like, why aren't they responding? But then I learned it's supposed to. It's frustrating.
It's better in Warhammer 2 at the moment, luckily.
Okay.
Than Warhammer 3, I find anyway, like unit reactiveness. But it's something they're working on, I think, in Game 3 to get a little bit better.
But I moved up the Minotaurs with the Ungor Horde, so when they both connect, that also kind of works in my favor, right? Because his units will want to try my Ungor, will want to try and fight my Ungor Horde while the Minotaurs slip away. Yeah,
so the Minotaurs fight onto the Ungors is really good, because much like Goblins and Trolls or Treekin and Eternal Guard, the infantry will absorb a lot of the damage they normally would have taken.
Yeah.
But in this instance, so unfortunately, like different tactics obviously work against different builds and so on.
Obviously.
Because the main threat was the range of the Wood Elves, it's more important to push the Minotaurs through and just have them shut down that key unit really quickly.
Okay.
Because without the archers, your rest of your build probably beats the rest of what would remain after the archers of Logic's build.
Okay.
Your infantry trade relatively okay against each other, and then you've obviously got a big scary Taurochs the Brass Ball running around. Okay. Did you want to give that matchup a go again, or did you want to have
sure.
Logic play?
Oh yeah, that's also fine. I think I got a lot out of this game, so if there's more to learn in other games, that's fine too.
Yeah. Logic, who do you fancy playing?
I don't mind.
Do you want to go Lizardmen, just because we practiced it last week, so it'd be good if we can see if we can follow over with any of those kind of stuff.
Lizardmen, yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, this is maybe a build that I would bring. I don't know if this...
Oh, I can add slots, so you can switch over and have a little look.
This is a build that I quite like, but...
yeah, if you switch teams, you'll be able to check it out.
This is a build that I used to beat Wood Elves, but it depends. Harpies are really slow in this game.
It's because we're so used to Furies.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah, Furies are disgusting.
Yeah, they're beyond broken.
So yeah, the reason Logic build is so good here, basically, is he has got so many shielded infantry. So if the Wood Elf player does go for kind of that mass kiting game, you've got units which are only worth 400 gold with shields to fend them off. And Centaurs are just an absolute world beater once you get a little bit more comfortable micromanaging. Them on the cycle charge is a little bit gross. They do a ton of work.
They got perfect vigor, so they just stay at 100% all going.
What spells do you have in your Brave Shaman here?
Traitokin and Dissolve.
Yeah, Traitokin is the one.
Yeah.
So if you ever struggle against cavalry, use Traitokin. It just absolutely rinses them.
And why is that spell so good against those in particular?
I think it's kind of like a Flock of Doom. So it does so much more against monstrous infantry and cavalry than it does basic infantry. I think it's due to the model size, but Logic might know. He's done a lot of spell breakdowns.
The reason Traitokin is so good, if you overcast it, it guarantees, no matter what cavalry in the game, it guarantees to kill 14 models. So you can bring any level of cavalry in the game. So for example, if I take Bretonia and I take, say, the Companions of Cornell at 45 models, but anything that has, I think, something like 45 models and above, something stupid like that, it always kills 14 models.
Okay.
While Spirit Leech kills 6 or 7 models, but for Winds of Magic, Traitokin is the best cavalry killer in the game.
Okay. Oh, and also increases speed.
And also, it kills it disgustingly quickly. So, and there's almost no avoiding it either. So if you take, where's Traitokin? I think Traitokin is, so 12 seconds to kill 14 cavalry is just absurdly quick.
Yeah.
It's been I've got a feeling it might get nerfed when it gets implemented into.
Yeah, it
Warhammer 3,
really needs to. The Spirit Leech was nerfed hard, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just because the unit size changes or not.
Yeah, basically it doesn't kill models like it used to.
Yeah, because everything's got more HP, I guess. Cool. So yeah, that's good for to know. Against Lizardmen, you're less likely to need Traitokin. It's still very good against monstrous infantry, but in this matchup, Lizardmen tend not to really bring a bucket ton of cav. It tends to be a kind of Temple Guard Saurus box with double solar engine and Mazda Mundi on his Stegodon. Cool. I do like your build though, it looks good. See what Logic's going for. Oh, are they what I think they are?
Oh, they are.
Yeah. No, remember, everyone stopped playing them and I kind of brought them back. But we'll see how we feel here.
You need to investigate these ones a little bit more, by the way. I think you'll very much like them.
Oh, I use them in a lot of matchups.
So I watched Alfredino do this matchup, and his way of playing this is incredibly interesting.
Yeah. So the main thing experienced Lizardmen players are going to attempt to do against you and your Beastmen is basically shoot you off the field, which is a little surprising because Lizardmen you'd think are a big dino faction and they want to go toe-to-toe with you with large single entities. But in reality, Beastmen have basically no armor apart from Taurox. So you're going to see a lot of chameleon skinks, a lot of javelins, and some of the big dinos even have like basically blowpipe machine guns on their back, and solar engines and that type of stuff. So kind of similar to the Wood Elf game you just played, it's going to come down to realizing what the actual threat is to your build. Like little skinks aren't going to kill Ungors in combat, so they're not going to be the main threat. But it's how quickly can you shut down those range elements of the Lizardmen build.
Okay.
Depends what you want me to do, Dux. I can bring a proper build, or...
Yeah, no, this build looks fine. I don't know how much gold you've got left over.
What's this one? Pretty gnarly.
Yeah, you can go for that.
Just check what I got in my back pocket. I can't remember, if I'm quite honest. It's been so long since I played this.
Yeah, just go for this one, man. That looks like a very fun build, but I don't know where you got that. It seems like a build I would have chucked at you at some point. It was like a challenge game. Have you been able to play much Total War Warhammer 2 since our last training session?
Yeah, a bit here and there, but not overly much. It's been a busy week working private wise, so not as much as I wanted to, and then I got the games in for the small beer tournament.
Is there any problems you've been running into that seem to just happen, like, you know, time and time again?
No, not really. It's just the vast differences you can find in the game that I'm still getting used to. Like I told you last session, there was this Vanguard build with all kind of shooting up front, and Wood Elves not bringing ranged, but other kind of stuff that I'm just not used to or didn't expect, or that I don't know what the units actually do. It's still a lot of learning mostly. Or in the
there's a lot of factions. It's good to learn now though, because Mortal Empires is only like a month and a bit away, I think, or something around there. So it's going to get pretty crazy when all the new stuff drops.
Yep.
Happy with this, Ducks?
Yeah, looks like a good build to me.
But also, like in that game with my corn against his Kt, it was very obvious that I should not have blobbed up my infantry like 3 times for those. I forgot the name of the spell, but that was just disgusting.
Talons of the Night or
something exactly.
Yeah, that's a mistake everyone does, though.
Yeah.
Don't say much about it. But yeah, particularly something that's useful to do when both armies are kind of just walking towards each other at the start. Just hover over the enemy's spell cast and you can see what spells they have. And if they've got an air effect one, just avoid blobs at all costs.
Exactly, but that's part of the learning process, because I really didn't have the time with everything else going on to do that in my leisure time. So that's something I need to learn.
Yeah, but if you're in a build which doesn't involve just rushing the enemy, you can always deploy at the very back of your deployment zone to give yourself a little bit more time. Kind of assess their army.
You've gone quite elite, I see.
Huh? Oh, you can see in the... Oh, right. Didn't know you could check that before the battle.
Oh yeah, go into the band's power, it'll tell you how many troops there are.
Yeah, that's one thing of the build you showed me that you like to play. I was like, but where are all the cool Minotaurs?
This is the problem. I know you love Minotaurs.
Yeah.
They're not currently super competitive in most matchups. So, obviously Taurox, the ultimate Minotaur, is very competitive. Be interesting to see how they perform here, actually. It's going to be maybe a little bit similar to the game you just played, of trying to figure out what can damage your Minotaurs, and trying to eliminate that stuff as fast as possible.
Okay, I'm ready. Yeah, at some point I'm probably gonna have to switch to less Minotaurs.
No, we'll find a way. We'll try and find a way, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna be viable in quite a few matchups, but...
Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Oh, the Grog Who's the Wolf's Run. I quite like those.
Jesus.
So yeah, immediately when you see your opponent's army, obviously, you see Lord Mazdamundi, so you also need to think what in your army can kill Lord Mazdamundi, and you need to ensure those units survive till, you know, the late game where they can actually fight him.
Jesus, Again, with the builds I was not expecting. I guess you really didn't like Torok's last game, so now you're like tripling up on Lord. Yeah. Ah, crap. Yep. He's around.
I just forgot how oppressive Torox is. I was like, you know what? Screw Torox. Oh no, I forgot these can be flipping stop.
You on skirmish mode?
Yeah, I forgot the little skinkies can be on skirmish mode.
Yeah, it's annoying.
They don't deserve skirmish mode. Sit and fight, nerds.
Oh crap, talk about skirmish mode. So do my centicore throwers.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is not going how I wanted at all.
That makes no sense. Oh, okay, never mind.
What was that?
Oh, right. Just shit this game, don't worry about it.
You leave a unit behind or something?
And there goes the army losses again.
Yeah, GG's man though, GG's. Sweet, well played.
Thanks.
You still made Logic sweat a little bit for it, which is always good.
Man, I forgot how many abilities Master Mundi had, bro.
You just not use them. I'm so used to using Master Mundi that I don't think about it, but yeah, he's got a lot of stuff going.
Come on, PC. Thank you.
So, my main feedback for that game was there's a few little bits. Particularly in the early game, it seems like you're quite in a rush to get to the enemy army and start smashing them up as quickly as possible. But there really is no rush, particularly against like lizard men, who, if they don't have solar engines, they can't really damage you that much on the approach.
Yeah,
so your Manticore was kind of like way ahead of your army.
Yeah.
and that allowed it to get hunted down by chameleon skinks, which are very popular for lizardmen in general. And once it's rampaged, it's just, it's almost useless at that point. So it can kind of chill out a little bit further back. It can still move up with your army, but just make sure your cheapest units are the ones in the front, so in case there is any chameleon skinks, they can take shields. And also, you don't have to engage your main, like your front line tends to engage, and then you flank round the flanks. You can kind of slow your advance a bit, get your units around the flanks, so you can all attack in one go, which tends to do a little bit better because your opponent has to then react to so much more rather than one threat at a time. And Lord Mazdamundi, in general, you'll see a lot of Mazdamundi in Warhammer 2 multiplayer. 9 times out of 10, unless you're something which is like an amazing duelist or damage dealer, it's best just to leave him to the end. Because quite a few of your units got stuck on him, you had Minotaurs attacking him and Ungors, and your opponent can just shoot you with javelins while you do this. And Mazdamundi does not die. He is incredibly tanky. So unless you have like a, I don't know, King Leon Leoncoeur or someone along those lines, it's probably best to leave Mazda to the end. Because Taurox can take him on in a 1-on-1 fight, but he can't take him on when there's a load of skinks shooting him and Saurus attacking him and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is always so good to note that if you get yourself in a bad engagement, I know it's kind of hard to tell what a good and bad engagement is at the moment, you don't have to stay in it. So Taurox was fighting both the heroes and Lord Mazdamundi.
Yeah, I tried to pull him out. I tried pulling him out at one point, but I think it was too late at that point.
Yeah, so pulling through your own troops is the best way to do that. So yeah, if you get yourself in a bad situation, even the Minotaurs are fighting a spear unit, just walk away. There's no need to actually fight something like that. And something which might be good to do is just maybe every like 30 seconds or 45 seconds, zoom out and have kind of a overview of the battlefield, just to make sure there's no units kind of being idle on the flanks and stuff, or any who have returned back and need to be given orders again, basically, is something I find very handy.
Okay. Yeah, I think the main takeaway for me is that I was still stuck in the mindset of our previous Lizardmen game where I had to rush in, but indeed there were no solar engines this time, so that really changed things.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So,
and another thing is just the speed of things, because a lot of this is new, so I'm still processing things, and that's slowing me down a lot.
Of course. Yeah.
If I compare it to playing StarCraft 2, where some of that becomes muscle memory and all that.
Yeah, of course. And also, Logic he's been a tournament player for a couple of years now, so he's a tough cookie to crack anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't just like against you. I wasn't expecting to win. I'm just hoping to learn.
yeah, exactly. Logic, I don't know if you've got any feedback.
One thing I'll say is, firstly, you're doing very well.
Yeah.
There's a lot in Warhammer 2 compared to Warhammer 3. There is a lot of information to take in. It's not the UI is not all that user friendly, I'd say. I think you do very well. I think Ducky's right. You've got a primary attack followed by a secondary attack. There's a lot of times where you overwhelm me very well, and if it just been timed a little bit better on the flanks and the front, you probably actually would have won maybe at least one of those. Maybe even the Wood Elf game.
The Wood Elf one.
I was pretty done in that game. I honestly don't know where I pulled that win from, but it's a place that I don't want to go back to. No, you played well, dude. You played really well. Really
Thanks.
well.
Yeah, we'll I didn't save the Wood Elf game, annoyingly.
I've got it, so I can get it.
Yeah, I saved both.
If you can send it to me, we'll go over that one next time as well.
Sure.
Because that game you were so close. It was like nearly perfect. It was just the initial push was good. It just needed to have that second push on top of it, basically.
Yeah, I saved both replays as well, so I'll send them to you in the Discord chat after.
So you're really good with Taurox. One thing I might even recommend is bringing a Gorball to protect him. You can bring just a naked Gorball. He's really good to go alongside him. A lot of pro players bring that.
So it's kind of like you had bodyguards from Mazdamundi, sort of deal. Okay.
And if you just group them, literally you can give them just the same attack orders, so it shouldn't add any extra stress to the micro.
Something that I recognised in that last game, I was like, cool. You pushed him, your big boy first. I was like, cool. I think you're going to do that again in the second game. So I brought some of my own anti-large to deal with him. And it was kind of a 3v1, which is a little bit rough for Taurox.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, even if the outnumbered single entity is far better than kind of like 3 or 2 single entities in combat, it's always bad to be trading like 1 to 3 or 1 to 2. Particularly because attack animations often make you kind of lunge or swing in a little bit, and if your opponent gets behind you, your melee defense is halved, so it starts falling apart quickly. I'll switch the map up quickly now, because we should have time for another one anyway.
I have to say, I was kind of expecting Torx not being able to do so well the second time around.
For the cost, he's probably one of the best legendary lords in the game.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say for you that's really important with your lords is they're worth an incredible amount of balance of power, because when they die, you also lose -16 leadership map-wide for all your units. So that will also be reflected in balance of power. So the more damage he takes will actually affect balance of power more than anything else per value. So when you're fighting with balance of power and stuff, if you're quite behind, actually damage your opponent's enemy lord, doing good damage there, actually can really bring you back into the game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, when in doubt, if you're... This is like a real old school tactic, but if you're really kind of getting slaughtered, the best thing to do is just try and assassinate the enemy lord to get back into the game. Then you start breaking off the enemy army and stuff.
Yeah, that was my goal actually with Khorne versus Kt, but then he still had AoE spells.
Logic, are you going to be going Dowie?
Have you seen what I've got?
Oh, I love it. I love everything about this. This is a really fun build.
I like the sound of that.
I have no idea how good it's going to be.
Well, we'll discuss a little bit. So Logic is a Dowie main. So Logic, what do you fear the most from the Beastmen when you're going up against them as a dwarf?
What I fear the most?
There's kind of 2 ways Beastmen can play this, I think. But
yeah, probably. Well, you'd say Bestigors, but I don't actually think Bestigors are that good.
Yeah, they do okay here. So the 2 things I'm thinking of are chariots, which dwarfs absolutely despise fighting chariots. Now, it would be quite a big stress on your micro, because if they get stuck, and dwarfs have a few ways of doing that. They have flash bombs and slayers who can slow. But if you can keep chariots moving, dwarf players will start crying, basically, because they're very good. Or it's a more risky approach, but something I've seen a lot of Beastmen players do, is spamming Cygors, believe it or not. So you have a Cygor, and then you have a caster who can summon a Cygor, and you waddle the Cygors to the flanks of the dwarf formation, and you just start launching boulders, and it is such a horrible situation for the dwarf player, but it's incredibly risky, because if they've got cannons, you're gonna kind of suck. A lot of players don't bring cannons in this matchup due to the fact they get swarmed, but maybe it's something we can experiment with, but it's a little bit RNG focused.
If I was playing properly, I'd bring at least 1 cannon.
Yeah. At least 1 cannon.
Well, Cygors are basically just big men at first. So. But
yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have to walk me through a build then, because I'm not sure how to build that.
You're gonna be shocked when you see a Gorgon for the first time. They are giant Minotaurs.
Right, yeah, the DLCs should be okay here.
Yeah. So Torx is absolutely fine to bring here. It is good to note he does fire attacks, and Thoric Ironbrow is very popular, and he can give air effect resistance to fire, which is a little bit scary. So he won't actually kill Thoric Ironbrow that quickly.
Okay.
But apart from that, he's got great mass, and he can push into the enemy back line. As far as casters go, there's a few different things you can do. If you're worried about artillery, so if you do go for the Cygors, a Bray Shaman with Spirit Leech is really good, because Spirit Leech actually also destroys artillery pieces.
Oh, I thought you said the cost with a Cygor summon.
Oh yes, it depends if what you want to do. So you can bring a Bray Shaman with just the Spirit Leech, and then you bring a Bray Shaman of Wild with a Cygor summon, and then have a Cygor. You don't ever want to bring the Eye of Morslib in this matchup, because he does magical attacks, which obviously dwarfs big magic resistance. Although in Warhammer 3 that won't be the case.
Yeah.
No, it will not be.
Sorry, I accidentally pulled out my headset there. Awesome, cool. I'm liking the build so far. You'll definitely need some infantry. The main goal of your basic infantry is to attack slayers, if they can, and tie up units, particularly backline units, you know, thunderers and quarrelers and stuff. They will lose to pretty much every single dwarf actual melee unit.
Okay.
And blasting charges are your main enemy to your infantry. Miners, iron breakers, it doesn't matter. Blasting charges will absolutely shred your HP in seconds. So you want to avoid them at all costs. It can be a little bit tricky, but remember, you don't have to face your opponent, you know, one army to another army. You can try and pick them apart in different ways.
Okay.
And then with this build here, it might be worth just chucking in maybe a chariot or two. I'd recommend the Tuskal chariots because they're cheaper and they do pretty much the same job.
Okay.
And having a couple of Bestigors is fine. They're not the best unit here, but you know, it's an answer to some armor.
Whoa, they're the best of the Gauls, mate. I love them.
They are the best of the Gauls. And then I can't actually see how much money you've got.
1670.
1600. Razorgore herds are pretty good because they've got the AP. So you get.
Raging also one of the things that the dwarves really struggle with.
Yeah, maybe you should get double Razorgore here.
Razorgore.
Yeah, it's under monsters and beasts, just next to the hounds.
Oh, the piggies.
Yes, the piggies. So with this build right here, obviously you do lack backline harass, so you'll have to use your Tuskal chariots for that. And are your shamans on chariots?
No, they're not.
So if you put them on, you don't have to put them on chariots, but if you have them on there, they're really good against dwarves as long as you keep them moving. But they can obviously get stuck.
Don't forget as well, if you got hero chariots, they count as your total chariots.
Oh yeah. We're not going to worry too much about kind of Warhammer 2 unit caps at the moment because it's all going to change.
But what's the normal cap on chariots?
4.
It's now 4, yes.
Okay.
It's been changed over time, but you're fine in this build.
Can't put them both on a chariot though without cutting something.
You can just have one on a chariot. If you were going to have one, I would recommend the Deathcaster.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, just so you can get a little bit close. And when you overcast Spirit Leech, it increases the range.
Oh, yeah.
Not the damage, but if Logic's got a cannon or something, you can stay way away from the cannon and still pop Spirit Leeches on it, which is really nice.
Okay.
Yo, Ducky, I don't know if you've seen the pricing for ogres in this, but they are ridiculously overpriced.
Oh, yeah. yeah. They're not good in the, on Warhammer 2. Warhammer 3, they're a lot nastier.
Oh, the price of those, yeah.
Cool.
I'm just
You guys
thinking,
ready to go?
will I have enough wins for both the Summon Cygor and the Spirit
Yeah,
Leech,
Spirit
though?
Leech is pretty cheap. If your opponent doesn't have artillery pieces, you then just use him as a chariot. So just cycle charge in and doing damage, and then just focus on the Cygor summons.
Okay.
We all see a decent amount of dwarf players do here is go for like a slow push. If you bring Cygors, just because they know they need to shut them down, you know, over time.
Okay. When you were talking about finding me a training partner, I thought you meant on my level, but...
No, there was going to be Frederick, but he couldn't do
Yeah.
today. I've got some dates for him next weekend, but I think they'd be too early time-wise for you, but I'll see if he can... He's keen to do extra games anyway.
Okay.
So I'll try and get him to do some in the evening.
I forgot about those. I forgot they could do that.
Or the Ironbreakers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Let's see. Sure, how about there?
No one expects the Dwarf Inquisition.
Oh, so much as Vanguard deployment.
See what we're looking at here. Yeah, it's pretty elite from you guys.
Actually, kind of like the idea of having Torx with a Gorbul. Might wanna get a build from that, because then I do have at least 2 Minotaurs.
Yeah. So it's good to know here with your deployment. This is a good deployment. If when you load in your opponent doesn't have artillery, you should actually fall back. So go backwards.
Ah, is that allowed?
Yeah, as long as your cycle is shooting.
Ah, of course.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah, like, I know what's coming here. So, while the cycle's attacking, you can pull back your main army, because there's no point to rush. But if your opponent has cannons, organ guns and stuff, then you'll want to continue your assault instead. So that's kind of that, very quickly looking at your opponent's army and seeing what they possess.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's going to be a rush then.
Excellent stuff. Good luck, guys. So yeah, the first thing you notice is he has no artillery, so there's no need to rush the fight. He will, of course, push you further and back on the map. Your chariots here. So your opponent has one Slayer, and pretty much no range apart from the Master Engineers. So you can try and bully the sides of his formation with your chariots. Bear in mind, though, he does have a Master Engineer who can, if you get too close to him, can drop a flash bomb on you.
Okay.
And at this point, you probably want to be summoning that second cycle, just to get as much value as possible.
It's on the way. Oh, that was too long into battle. Oh, that's alright, broken, okay. Okay, this is more hectic than I thought it would be. Nope. Gonna have to do more practice against with chariots.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's your first time kind of using chariots and stuff. They are a little tricky to use. You've also got some bestigors you can bring up in.
Yeah.
And then when you've got enough Winds of Magic, just obviously bring in the other Cygor.
Oh. Stupid Cygor looking the other way. Did not look at Torx fast enough.
GG's, well played.
GG.
Well played. Not a bad attempt considering it was your first time using that type of build.
Yeah.
And it is actually quite a tricky style to play, realistically, compared to the... We've been mainly doing kind of like rush builds, really, from the Beastmen. It's a very different style of play. How did you find trying to micro all that?
It was too much in the beginning, but in the later stages I was getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
So I might want to try less chariots to start with in a build.
Yeah. And like, so maybe work your way up to having this kind of level of chariots and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So the main kind of feedback I have for this is Torx kind of got himself in a similar situation than he did in the Lizardmen game.
Yeah.
Even though it may not have looked like it so much, he was fighting 3-on-1 again against.
Yeah, they were ranged.
Yeah, the engineers, and they are actually quite powerful. They'll stack up damage relatively quickly. And in this match, you kind of gave him the fight he wanted with the infantry a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So you definitely could have pulled back a bit more and just tried to use the chariots, because his slayers were off to the left-hand side, chasing away one chariot. The other chariot can kind of jump in one side with Taurox, beat up a unit on the flank, and then retreat again. That's again going to just take a little bit more practice with chariots.
Yeah.
You can do it with Razor Gauls, but as you learned here, they're not worse at doing it because they rampage.
Yeah.
So if they're going to go in, I think they went on a unit of hammerers each. What needs to happen really with them is they both go on the same unit of hammerers as you hit that unit of hammerers from the front with the chariots, because they need to win the fight quickly. And like break a unit very fast. And yeah, I think he's just basically trying to abuse the dwarfs' main weakness, which is their speed. Not actually fight the army, just pick apart the bits on the side. And then if he bunches up in a blob to stop that, that's when the Cygors are really dangerous.
Oh, okay, like that. Cool.
Don't know if you've got any words of wisdom, Mr. Logic?
Don't think about this as their normal build. I would not normally bring this.
That's fine.
It was a very fun build. You will often get pushed by dwarfs in this matchup because protecting their back line against beastmen can be really hard. Players do it, particularly newer dwarf players will almost always in every matchup go defensive. In which case again the Cygors are great because if they brought more than one cannon you just spirit leech them down a little bit quickly there.
Yeah.
But I think all round, particularly up against Logic, who's as I said before, he's a bit rusty in Warhammer 2, I believe. He hasn't played Warhammer 2 since 3 came out, but is still a very, very talented player. You played really well in all your games against him.
Thanks.
Do you have any questions?
No, at the moment I think I also need more builds, because I've been doing the builds you gave me last time, basically either the Minotaurs with shields and the Minotaur against infantry. But like this build is kind of fun. But also something which we mentioned earlier, Thorax with a Gorbal, I believe you said, and
Yes,
something around that. Because I'm really having trouble finding builds actually.
Yeah, let me quickly find a video for you.
I've got one iCast if you like.
Sure.
So I have a really outdated build guide, which doesn't include the Regiment Renown, but is a really good base guide, basically, which is Falcon's army guide. So I'll send you it now in Discord quickly. I'll pop it in this group chat. So it's very much outdated now, but the actual basis of each build still holds up really strong. Yeah. Particularly the Beastmen here, I don't think had their new units. They didn't have Taurox and stuff. But it's a good starting place to operate, really.
Cool. But
I think it's not very fun. I think the most powerful units in the Beastmen roster comes from the Ungors.
Ungors?
Yeah.
I think Centigor's probably the best, but...
I mean, like infantry-wise.
Oh, infantry. Yeah, just cheap chaff. The Ungors aren't there to deal damage. They're there to annoy and harass, and then your big scary monsters and chariots and cavalry are the ones that do the damage. Cool, so I've dropped that anyway in our group chat, which I'll just leave open in case Logic hops in again in a future one to help train.
But in general, how do you find builds? It's just experimenting a lot, or...?
Yeah, there's a mixture. So experimenting, or something that's really good to do is actually just steal other people's builds. If a build works really well against you, save the replay and then give it a go yourself. You'll often find the build won't work as well as your opponent using it, and that's because it might not suit your playstyle.
Yeah, and they probably have
use
more
it as a
practice.
basis and then build from there, basically. Likewise, going back and just checking out replays on my channel, Logic channel, or Turin's or anything like that. You'll be able to find a load of links to tournaments and stuff, and you can kind of copy Beastmen tournament builds from there.
Okay.
And yeah, this guide I sent you should have a Beastmen build for every single matchup in the game.
Oh, cool. That's a nice start then.
Yeah.
I actually have a game which was... well, here's a really cool best of 3 between Hadri's and Calaharman that you might want.
Just drop it in the group chat.
There was a really cool game between the one you talked about against Dwarfs. It was Pantelenard against... Oh, I think it's in that game. I think it's Hadri's against Calaharman, and I think in that game Hadri's kites using Centigors. Not Centigors, sorry, Tigors.
Yeah, there was a dwarf build which kind of emerged against Beastmen, which people have built to counter now, but it is a Slayer Rush with miners, and it's really scary.
My favourite build.
It's your favourite build, did you say?
Yeah.
It's so nasty. Okay, so it looks like there's 2 Beastmen games in there, as well as a dwarf one, which is Beastmen v Dwarves, which would be nice, and Chaos v Beastmen, interesting.
Yeah, I was first Beastmen at the end stage when you can only bring one Gorbal was now Chaos favoured.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so hopefully that'll be a good basis anyway of a few builds.
Thanks.
If you could also just shoot me across any videos you want me to analyze before next time, as well as your... I suppose I'll have access to the short bid ones if you just keep them in Logic's server, so we can maybe next time go over them and kind of break down a battle, kind of in slow motion almost, to figure bits out.
Sure.
Cool, man.
Cool.
That all sounds good to me. Thank you, Logic, as well, for hopping in, by the way, and playing some games.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll chuck in the 3 games now, by the way. Are they Warhammer 2 replays?
Does it matter who posts them? Because if I post them, I believe it's from my point of view, or does that not matter?
It's fine. Either way, we can still break it down pretty easily.
Okay.
Cool. Logic, are you just going to pop them in? Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect, man. Next week may be a bit tough for me training date-wise. I might be able to do later in the week. My early week's kind of a bit hectic.
I actually... I'm gonna stop the stream now.